Hey guys, what's up? So, this is pretty much me going over one of my first ever press on videos. There's going to be so much more to come. I've done a ton of these. I believe this is actually from last year, if not early this year. It was definitely when I was in my more muted colors era, but I thought it would be perfect since we are getting ready to go into fall to kind of make this my comeback video. Or like the first video I decided to voice over. But here we're just going to be kind of doing like a very fall-esque design. We're going to be using some muted blues. We've got gold in there. We also have a base of a creamy ivory. As always, everything that I use is going to be listed in the description below. If I'm able to get some really good screenshots, I will go ahead and put those in there as well. So that way you are aware of, what products and things like that are being used. But yeah, but as you can see, this is a pretty simple base. We've got that ivory color, which is nothing but silk. Number 2 from Medusa Gel in their color collection as the base. And we are going in and we're kind of marking off the spots that we want to color in. And that color is going to be Voila, which is number 74 from Medusa Gel as well. But I'm going to go ahead and let you guys enjoy the process. You are going to see me jumping from nail to nail as I am doing a press on set. So just for sake of efficiency, while one is curing, I'm going to be starting the next one. But at least this way you'll be able to see the start of the process that I didn't get to catch for that other nail. Like I said, this is the base. We've got that creamy ivory color on there. And then we're going to be going in with our muted blues. I kind of have to come back here because I forgot that this is a really bad habit that I have. Do not, do not, do not touch any nail product with your bare hands. Palm side or otherwise. Over time, if you keep doing that, you are going to get some kind of reaction and it's not going to be the one that you want. I promise you. Do as I say, not as I do. If you ever need to clean the edges up, obviously, use a brush, use a lint-free wipe, something that is going to keep it clean but keep your skin safe, because that is something that, while it's safe for your nail plate, not necessarily safe for like the flesh of your finger. Um, yeah, I just have to put that disclaimer in there, but I forgot that I do that. Important tip that I always have to remember: get yourself a really good cleanup brush. I'm using an art detail brush because I actually didn't have any cleanup brushes at this time. I had to go buy more. But either way it works. As long as you've got something crisp, you've got yourself some alcohol, that's really handy. Any mistake that you make, gone. If you decide you no longer like that design, gone. That is the beauty of gel and alcohol pairing. Additionally, if you were able to see how clean that came off, that is because I had a well prepped base. So not only did I go through and kind of make sure that I had, the opacity from that kind of ivorish color. But I did go back, and you see me doing that here, is putting a matte top coat on it. Now, if you don't have matte top coat, that's perfectly fine. Before I even got some, and as well as when I run out, all I do is I put a top coat on very thinly, and then I buff it. That's all you really need to do. So if you are at a point where you're like, I can't really afford to get it right now, or it's not a necessity, I don't use matte that much, just put on your traditional clear whatever top coat, buff it, and you're good to go. Obviously, wipe it with alcohol, get that dust and stuff like that off there, or the debris I should say, and then you're good to go. You're gonna have crisp lines as long as you've got a good brush and a clean surface. Now we're grabbing that kind of second. I want it it's like a muted navy, I guess. It really depends on what you call your blues. I'm gonna call it a muted navy. It is number 77, called Blue Haze from Medusa Gel, but this is our contrasting blue color because we wanted something a little bit light. We wanted something a little bit darkish. So we're gonna kind of go in with this. We're gonna make some more oblong outlines. So as you're doing this design, if you're following along, it doesn't really matter what kind of shape you're doing. If you want to use sharp edges, rounds, if you want to use more, well, I guess hexagonal, things like that are still technically, angular geometric shapes. Any shape that you can think of, triangles, circles, hearts, whatever. You just want to make sure that you've got those two different colors that are almost within the same area. I mean, obviously, if you want to go full contrast, you could do that as well. But pretty much what you want to do is just have that subtle difference. At least in this particular design, that's what I was going for. So we're doing that same pattern. We're marking off some areas. I am going to go back in and fill this later. But if you do your lines first, instead of just going with your blobs first, you can kind of see. Because there are occasions where it's like, hey, I want to change this up. I may not want to fill this in. I just want to do a really thick outline. Or I want to do more lines in there, and then you get that kind of topographic feel. But that still looks really amazing because not only do you now have the solid shapes, the negative space, but now you have different lines playing within, size difference, spacing, and things like that, which kind of adds another dimension to the art. So this is real. That's why I said this is a really good foundation art inspo, at least in my eyes. That's how I look at it. Sometimes when I do these, I just go on these weird mental tangents. But anyway, yeah, you could do whatever you want. This is abstract. Abstract means there are no rules. Everything is in play. You do what you want to do. But here we are working on another one. Let me not interrupt y'all. Okay, so now we're getting our fourth color, sorry, for the set, and that is going to be Autumn Leaves. It is number 215. It is the gold kind of accent color that is going to be constant throughout. I do apologize for the jump cut. In fact, we've got a few more jump cuts because I was very distracted, and a few times I realized I wasn't recording, and for that I do apologize. But at least here I did catch some of the leaves. That would work really well in your set if you are kind of following the same pattern and motif of me, which is kind of like that fall floral kind of set. If you just want to do fall leaves, this is perfect. You just put your line vine in there and then you put your leaves on. You can do any kinds of leaves. You can do round leaves, oval, spade leaves, anything you want. Like I said, abstract, anything's in play. Same goes for when you're going and adding those like extra details and things like that. Whatever you want will fit, I promise. You can also, well, you'll see it a little bit later because I don't like the lower branch, I believe, from this, if I'm remembering correctly. I will kind of do like an off-kilter outline of that bottom cow print, because that's honestly what this is giving me, cow print shape. That's also a really cool element that you can incorporate, because here I think I tried to do tiny leaves and I just wasn't feeling it because I like the way that the top was, and I was like, oh, this is not gonna work. Let me just go ahead and get rid of this. So again, this is where our alcohol and stuff like that comes into play. Let's keep it clean, so that way we can go right back to our beautiful surface as if the gel wasn't there. I will say, if you haven't done that and you've still got kind of like that sticky residue from your gel color, you might find that the gel color is sticking in there, or if you're using something glittery or kind of like a metallic-y tone, the sparkles and stuff like that from that is sticking in the color that you just added because you did not add a protective layer by either, you know, buffing it lightly, putting a top coat and buffing it lightly, or putting on a matte coat. But here is kind of like that line work. I do kind of wish I added more of this in the end, just looking at it in retrospect, because I do like it looking at it now. I don't know why I didn't like it then. I mean, I would have nixed the leaves and kept that instead of nixing the whole thing. But I at least wanted you guys to see both of those elements, which is why I kept it in there. Again, I do apologize for the jumpy editing, but I at least have that piece and wanted to show it to you. But now we're getting kind of to the creme de la creme, which is going to be the flowers. So with the flowers, it's super simple. If you like this method, if you have your own method, that's perfectly fine too. If you're doing different flower, perfectly fine as well. But I do find it easier to do this particular flower if I just put a dot and then I kind of make my little bow ties around it. So for some, it might be easier to make that first line out of the dot, and then you get your number 3. Because I when I say that to some people, it clicks for them. So you make your number 3 and then you connect the 3s, like the 2 sides of 3 or whatever, or the M. It really just depends on what you're looking at and how you're looking at it. But this is pretty much what you're gonna do. Like, you just want to have that kind of bow, and so it looks like a flower petal, unless you're doing, you know, I think something's round or a little bit more angled with like a sharp end or edge. Then obviously your flower is going to look a bit different, which is perfectly fine because flowers are abundant. There's so many different kinds, so it really doesn't matter. You pick your choice, you know. But so from here you just connect. So once you've got the, you know, 3 to 4, it really just depends on what you're doing. If you're doing a 4-leaf clover, or you're doing one of those kind of like big 3-petaled flowers. I know some of you guys have seen them. They're really pretty. Then you would just do that, and you would just be sure to add the detail on the edge of the petal so that way it reflects that and it doesn't look like a dilapidated flower or anything like that. But this is where you're going to go when you're doing that outline. So once you've got this part done, you can go ahead and throw it in the oven and cook it. I usually cook mine anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds. It really does depend on the brand that I'm using. When I'm using Medusa, putting it in for a 10-second quick cure so that way I can move on to the next element of the art works well for me. If I'm using kind of those off the counter per se type of art gels like On Sale, used to be Savvyland, they like the ones you get from Amazon where you're just practicing, those need a full minute and then possibly a top coat with an additional minute. Just because I find that those still have like a weird uncureness to them sometimes. And so if I know I'm not giving it to a person and it's just like sitting there on display, I'll go ahead and just use Ansel, even though it doesn't cure 100%. And then I'll just put a really good top coat on it and cure that. And then the on-sale stuff will not move. But here's another flower following the same pattern. I'm going to go ahead and shut up so that way you guys can watch this process. When we go into the details and things like that, I'll probably pop back in. All right, so this is the details that I'm talking about. You're going to go in and you're going to pull from the center and you're just going to make really feather light strokes. If you use too much pressure, the lines are going to be too thick. They're going to be a little too prominent. So instead of them being, you know, kind of like subtle petal ruffle indicators, they're going to be whole stripes on there, and you don't want that. I mean, unless that's what you're going for, that's perfectly fine. It is your flower. You do you, boo. But I'm just saying, if you want that same look and feel, very light strokes from the center, you want to make sure that you lightly loaded your brush, especially when you're getting to the smaller flowers and the smaller details, because you don't want it to be too heavy. You don't want the line to be too thick. You don't want them to be too close together, unless like obviously you're doing kind of like the fluffy or furry looking flower center. In that case, what you're going to do is multiple strokes towards the center, and that'll kind of give you that like fluttery, fluffy looking center that some flowers have. And then you can go in and add more details if you just want to do more abstract lines, swirls, geometric accents, depending on what kind of design that you've done. Yeah, that's pretty much how you're going to want to do it. Did I really just cure that with that blob towards the end? What am I doing with this blob? Oh, okay. I guess I decided to add in the flower. Yeah, I was just as shocked as you guys. I'm pretty sure you guys were like, what the hell is she doing with this blob? I wanted to know too. But I guess I decided it was too much negative space, and so I decided to add another flower. Can you tell I didn't watch this video all the way through? I just like watched the snippet so I could try to do this voiceover tonight. Oh man. But let me shut up and let you guys finish watching or, you know, following along. Obviously, if you need to, you know, pause, stop, or rewind, you know, so that way if you need to see anything again. I do know that I have sped this video a little bit, at least the first half, because the first half of the video was closer to bordering on like an hour or so. And I didn't want to hold anybody hostage for an hour or so. So I did kind of speed it up a little bit, but I did kind of make sure it was slow enough to follow along. But in case you guys need it, you know, don't hesitate to mute the video. I know I'm crazy. slow down the video on YouTube, you do have playback speed options just to make sure that you are able to get each step. Additionally, I would love to in the future is to go back and do even slower tutorials for things that I've found works for me, as well as, processes and things like that work for me. If that is something that, you guys are interested in, please definitely let me know. I have no problem adding that to the docket. I love doing stuff like this. I love watching other people do stuff like this. So let me join the club. But yeah, so from here, it's pretty much you just vibing out and you go on how you feel. If you want more flowers, you want more, random details and things like that, you add as you go. Obviously, remember, nothing is permanent until you put it in the lamp. So if you don't like it, wipe it off. It's gone.